Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you. All views and opinions expressed on this show belong to the individual and are not necessarily shared with the producer of the show. Want more details? Go to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com. Now let's get real and have some fun. Who are we going to explore with today? Come on with me and let's get into the deep. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. This is part 2 with Dibblee on Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine, an amazing woman with an amazing story. She's an international best-selling author, and if you've already watched part 1, you know all about that already, but she is an amazing woman, and we're going to talk about the Frockalicious events that she does, and some of the people that come with her to help inspire others to move out of their frocks, their masks, their disguises, their lies, and move into living their authentic, true, joyful, wonderful lives. So it's, everything's possible. We just need to know, and knowing comes from talking, sharing our stories. This is a tragic story, and I wish I didn't have to be sharing it really, in the sense that I wish it never happened, but it did happen. And so many women and children and people haven't been able to speak, and Jo is offering that voice. She continues to do it because it speaks for so many, and it's tragic that there are so many that have never been heard. So let's listen, really listen with your heart, and think about the fact that just because it didn't happen to you, or that you don't know anybody who these things happen to, chances are there are a lot of people in your life who have those kinds of secrets, and it is affecting us all, whether we know about it or not. That is the reason for hurting and more dysfunction, and we need to get into that. Thriving communities, thriving children, healthy people. And I think we can do it. And this is an important part of this conversation. So if you didn't see part 1, you can go back and look for the link on lgrcc.com, or you can just look through the YouTube channel. It's there. And please don't hesitate to share. We really do need to spread this. Let's be that wanted ripple. Let's create an awesome ripple of love and understanding and compassion, and move on. All right, Dibblee, let's get real, chatting with Catherine right now. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Check us out on social media. All the links are there right on the website, lgrcc.com. Right now, let's get into this chat with Jo.
I don't actually even really get into the graphics, because I think we spend way too much time on the perpetrator and not enough on the voices of those who have been lost.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at my baby, and I'm looking at a picture of Susan that they brought me from the newspaper. And I'm thinking, when he says to me, "Will you stand for her?" Well, of course I said yes. I do think most people would say yes, given the circumstance I was sitting in that very moment.
Right.
Had you told me what that looked like, I'd love to tell you I'm that altruistic. I'm not. Had you told me what that would mean to me for the remainder of the time he was alive, I would have went, I don't know if I can do this. Because honest to goodness, living in constant fear, never knowing if he was going to find me. It was not. It was hard. It was hard, and it was heartbreaking. Yes, all the crap I had gone through as a child was rough, and it was rough.
But living in fear all the time that this person was going to actually find you, because you believed that he was going to try.
Well, he did try several times, and you're right. And he killed someone I knew.
Yeah. And
he told me he would kill people. Everyone I loved, he said.
Yeah, so you had no reason to believe otherwise. But I'm going to say, just from the person from what I know of you, even if they'd have told you all that, I have a feeling you would have done it, and maybe you would have, I don't know. I honestly don't think that when you've been through something like that and you know that this is I just don't think you would have, I just can't personally, but yeah, you weren't given that choice and you didn't know. But how do any of us know what our path is going to be? excuse me, there's something that you're talking about is making me clear my throat chakra like crazy here, which is interesting.
Oh, that's good that it's working. So, here's the thing. I agree with you. And everyone that is, that has known me for a very long time, but didn't actually even know the story, has said basically the same. And in my heart of hearts, I think you're right. But I didn't anticipate what that meant. That's why all those moves and all the name changes. And, sadly, I got divorced twice in that process because these people did not know who I was. And I was holding so much in. And at one point, someone tried to abduct Chantel, my daughter. And I was convinced, and the police were pretty convinced it was him. And she was 10. So again, she's now 34 and I have grandchildren. I don't even know, except to say to you that I know we have got to change things. And I don't see, and you said something earlier, or might have been previous when we were talking, that once we put it out there, then all that imagined stuff of what are people going to think, it goes away. And the reality is if people judge me, have at it. Because the last time I looked, your closet's got some skeletons too. Well, and more important.
Yeah, right? That's why I think it's so important to have people like you on my show. It's important for you to tell your story because there's 7 billion people on this planet, and I'm sorry, but there're just not that many different stories. We have different faces, different scenarios, yeah. But really, like you say, this is our normal. Okay, and then we go through situations and we think that is normal. We think to whatever degree we keep it a secret, and then we create the rest of our lives based on the lies. And that's what I liked about what you're saying is you get to that point where you choose to live, to take off those frocks, to take off the masks, to take off the illusions, and that unfortunately, when you've been putting them on for that many years, there's not going to be a lot of people around you who are going to get it. Yeah. I'm sure you must have faced that. And I just throw it out there because I know there might be people watching this who are saying, you know what, I'm tired of living with this secret. And so it's not easy, is it? Once you do decide. There's going to be people that are going to say, look, you're a liar. You changed your name this many times. You did this. You're just a liar. So how could I believe anything you say? And what they don't understand is you get to be very good at lying when you have been protecting that secret or for your safety. Yeah. So what do you say to people who would say that? Is it worth it?
Well, first, can I just address the whole, the storytelling piece? Because you just touched on something. To put this in perspective, what he did to me was horrific. What he did to Susan was horrific. The fact that there's a wake so big because of the problems that came from this. This isn't just about him assaulting me and me lucky enough to get away, he doesn't kill me, or that he assaulted 25 other women who end up turning to the streets or substance abuse issues. It isn't about that. It isn't even just about Susan. It isn't just about my parents and what happened. It's none of that. What happens is when we have some kind of trauma or some weird situation that causes us to alter the story to either A, emotionally protect ourselves, or B, physically, in my case, protect ourselves, there's a wake of things that happen. There's a ripple effect, if you can imagine. So I want you to think about this. Let's say you and I are really good friends, and during one of my phases, the moving and the names and all this crap, okay? So here you and I are hanging out, and my kids are little. This is a true story of something that happened. Of course, it's all true, but my point is this isn't an example. This is what happened. Yep. So you and I live next door to each other. You take care of the kids for me when I go to work. Sometimes they're 2 and 1 at the time. I come over because I'm struggling. My husband at the time is working away from home. We're trying to make ends meet during the 80s when it's like horrific recession in Kamloops. Can't put bread on the table. Like, it's brutal. And I go over and I borrow something for you, which really meant that someday I'll pay you back, but I don't know when. It might be a can of tomatoes. It doesn't really matter. This happened quite frequently. And you, just out of the goodness of your heart, see this young woman with 2 little kids, and you decide to befriend me. And I come over for tea every day. And like, we live in 2 duplexes. I live in my duplex and yours is, but not side by side, but regardless, next to each other. And one day you go to work and you come home and I'm gone. I never say goodbye to you. I never say anything to you. I'm just gone. 2 reasons. 1, I don't want you in jeopardy. 2, I don't want me in jeopardy. I ran into one of those women in the spring of this last year, of 2014. So I just want you to think about this. My kids are 34 and 33. We're talking years, honey. I've left you high and dry like you didn't count for anything, because that's what you think. You don't know why I just disappear. Luckily I didn't borrow money from you. Seriously, I'm being completely, like, this is how this has to come. It can't just come out all flowers. We have to talk about the real fallout from this is all of the people that got hurt.
And not then you just carry that hurt, that you didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice to not hurt them, to say to them, look, here's what, or you didn't think you did. That's maybe
I didn't, because if I told them, the police told me, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. You're putting you and them at risk. And so I disappear, right? So I'm gone.
So you weren't in a witness protection program. You just had to do this yourself and try. Their version of a witness protection doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in sexual assault, even in a murder case. If he had been mob related, yes. But he wasn't mob related. He was a bad person who ended up being a serial killer and a serial rapist. Okay, so in that situation, I have a couple police officers sent to me who would, follow the case, tell me when things looked like maybe they heard something. Be careful. Maybe a good idea. There's been some chatter. You should probably hit the road, Jack. I'm paraphrasing this, but that is pretty much what happened. So you're right. And so here you are. You and I are this, and you've been like an amazing support system for me. You've been so kind to me. And I run into this person and she calls me Rita. And I don't even think twice, because I've been Rita for 100 years to me. No, my name's Joe. No, your name's Rita. No, my name's not Rita. And then I start to realize who this person is. And we're down in California at a conference. And we start talking. And I'm like, I say, well, here's what happened. I always have books with me, right? So I pull it out and I'm like, look, we're bawling in the hallway. Thank God you've got books with you, because you can't, you can't make this stuff up, You
can't deny it. Sorry, just saying. That's me, by the way, when I was little. In any event, it was heartbreaking to me, because even though I knew at the time some of this stuff, I was so busy surviving that it was just a fact of life.
Well,
so, right? This isn't about Joe or about Ernie or even about Susan. This is about why we need bigger change to things and why we need to stop victimizing victims over and over. I don't see myself as a victim, but I was victimized by someone who was supposed to protect me. That being said, the system is set up to protect the perpetrator. So Bill Cosby, great example. It's live. Do you mind if we share that?
Talk about that first? Go ahead. What's your...
Okay. So Bill Cosby is in a position of power.
Yeah.
And back then, I'm sure he held things over people's head and, did what he needed to do to get what he wanted. And those girls, a lot of them didn't even know what was going to happen to them. And even if they had been lured in and had a weird suspicion, you want to trust. You need a mentor. You know what I'm saying? So this is the first time I'm seeing the police step up and go, even if your case is beyond, we still want to help you. I was so excited when I saw that. I thought, oh my goodness, finally. Instead of going, well, we have to make sure that he's guilty. And I understand why we don't want to. I'm the first person to say, if a woman is accused or vice versa, anyone is accused somebody falsely, we need to do something. Either they need help or they too should be charged potentially for something. Because that's perpetuating the problem.
Yeah, mischief or even or maybe something worse, maybe defamation of character or whatever, because it can have those repercussions. And yes, we are aware of those things, but there are other things. There are other ways to investigate, and those things I think are all too often, nobody wants to face these kinds of things. Nobody wants to face the guy who's the priest who's done something.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't want to. I get that. I mean, my dad was a policeman, and I remember a situation where it wasn't that, but it was something else, and he was our parish priest, but my dad had to put on his other hat and say, right now I'm a policeman. And that's the way it goes. And guys, not just law enforcement, but social services, it's not just about feeding money. It's about changing our minds about things. It's about realizing the dynamics of the tactics that can be used on children, on anybody. I mean, obviously he was still controlling you as an adult with children.
Absolutely. And so to me, that's the challenge, like thinking about this. And that's why when people talk to me and I say, look, you have to look at this in the biggest scale it is. It's not about me. That's why the story is written the way it is so people understand that whatever our thing is, right? It is my story, but I'll tell you, every day I get stuff that says, it was as though I was speaking to them, because it's their story too. It's not about what that level is. The saddest conversations I have are with the people that say, oh, my life was so much worse, Joe, and my heart breaks for them. We go back to that. We need to think of this as the overall scope of who got hurt, right? Yes, I was hurt, but Susan paid the ultimate price. And then the people that were in my wake of my life, I had friendships, but they thought we were really good friends.
Yeah.
I wanted to be more of a friend. Yeah. I was a great listener.
But you can't, because you got secrets. You've got to protect yourself. And that's what you're really speaking to. I mean, I think the fact is you have to tell it as it has to be your story, because you lived it, and that's where the authenticity comes through. That's where the integrity is. But it speaks to a society that's broken. It's not it's not that your family was dysfunctional. It's not that the social services specific home was dysfunctional. These are all little pieces of a puzzle, of a system that we just, until people talk about it, we're not aware that it's even going on. And I'm sure there's people listening who will say, mine was worse, or I don't get, I think you talked about this at the beginning. Whatever I endured in my life was my story, is exactly whatever I could handle. That's how I look at it. And even though I don't wish it on anyone, I don't think you, even with your experience, could have walked in my shoes. And I don't think I could walk in your shoes, because we have different makeup. We have different whatever it is that makes us who we are. And then we take the wisdom we glean from it, which you have done, and turn it into something that can help in the future, that can help people to see truth, to, even the thing about your intuition. I had that happen to me as a kid too. The same thing. It's like, this is not a good thing, but there's other factors. You don't want to look like you're a baby. You don't want to look like you're telling on somebody. You don't want to look like you can't do the job. You committed to the babysitting, and so you gotta, or whatever it was. Didn't happen to me, babysitting, but just the same idea. There's all these different factors, and people, I think the thing that's empowering about you writing your story is that we're talking about it. We're having this conversation. I think this is critical. But on top of that, Joe, you are also now offering, you do workshops and things, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to, and I think we could talk about this for a couple of hours, but I think people have watched this much will at least get out and get the book, for starters. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean your family has to have gone through that for you to relate. I think it's good as a society for us to see that, you know what? I remember there was a girl who lived beside me and who just disappeared in the night, and I didn't understand. Maybe we can be a little more aware. Maybe we can be a little more proactive in all of our things. But so I just would, if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to kind of get you to talk about what you're doing now, because I know you do offer. I've got a couple of notes on different seminars you're offering to help people to let go of those frocks, right?
Absolutely. And the reason we started doing these live events was the more I told the story, the more I realized how many people were stuck. They're stuck in the sadness or what have you. And we're not defined by what happened to us, and how could we let something that happened, say when I'm 15, if I had lived my whole life in that shadow still, because he's gone now, right? If I had lived my whole life, then I'm being disrespectful to my life and to those I can actually serve. And my whole goal is to help women and or men, but women primarily, to find what it is, to do what it is that they're intended to do. We are born with something unique. You said this, I might not have been able to do, and I agree with you 100%, because not the whole we're only given. Yes, I agree with that, but it's more to do with, it's something innate in us that will help us to help someone else. If we can take whatever, rotten coal, rotten food, you think of the ugliest thing, and we can turn that into a diamond, we're rocking.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do.
I'm not saying anybody deserve, don't, I hope I didn't get that wrong. I'm not saying that, you deserve the life, or, like you're, some
I
people,
didn't hear that.
yeah, I don't feel that way. I just feel like, for whatever reason, it seems, I guess when I look back, if you've survived it and you're thriving, you had what it took to get you through. I guess the people that didn't have it don't make it. I don't know.
Well, I think what happens, sadly, hon, is for people that don't make it, they're not making it. What's happening for them is they're stuck in the story, some of them. The other thing that happens is that they turn to substance to self-medicate. And that is the most dangerous of all, right? Because we get lost in the story then, because then the medication takes over. And it's not a judgment. I'm sad for those people, because I don't want them to give up their innate gift. And whatever it is, whether it's helping your community, just even your family, if you take your own family and then that ripples out, because we talked about the ripple effect, and now it goes to community, it does impact. We got to get back to number one in terms of our own lives and touching our own people. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I found is so many people got stuck, and around 35, people start to wake up and go, what else is there? Is this it? I want more than this. This can't be it. Surely to goodness, there's more than this. So we started doing these events called Frockalicious. Okay. So we're doing one in March in Vancouver. And so anybody listening or watching this from Alberta or Winnipeg, anywhere east of really Vancouver.
Or you know what, if you're in Australia and you want to come to Canada, this Absolutely. Is where it's at.
This is the best. I will say it, and the testimonials, I cannot believe the people that have come to these already, how much they've turned their life, their goals, their dreams into realities. And it's not Joe's story, because I do share my story a little bit, but I have other key people that help people do whatever it is they're dreaming. So whether it's, I want to launch this amazing business because I got this great idea, you need some help, but you need somebody who's heart-centered, that gets you and that knows that you have something. So I've brought together amazing people. In Vancouver, we've got one lady who's been in business forever and knows how to, take it from, here's my concept to rocking the world, right? Then we've got a lady who I just love, who is, may I share a little bit about these people?
Yes.
So Leilani she was TV and film. She did special effects. She was a makeup artist, and she knew there was something bigger. Okay. So classic. She started going, is this it? Not cool.
There is the famous song.
Yeah. Like that's not all there is. There's something I'm supposed to do. And cancer patients and burn victims have a real challenge with makeup. Like it's a real issue for them. Sure. And if you think about cancer patients that are going through recovery, they're already feeling like they've been run over by the biggest truck. And I'm a cancer I don't like to say survivor, but I beat the daylights out of that one and have one kidney as a result of it. But when you're going through stuff, you need just, just let me look like a girl for today. So Sweet Leilani is the name of the cosmetics company. She's going to talk about her 27-year journey and how she brought cosmetics into a different world, into a different realm. They work with regular, normal, so to speak, not ill, not having to address sensitive skin issues. But just an amazing woman, and her story is amazing because in the cosmetic industry, it's almost like it's a really cutthroat business, right?
I'm kind of catching on to that. I've seen some different, just following it on social media.
Exactly. So she's amazing and just so heart-centered herself and all that they do to give back. And
so she's one of the speakers at the event? And,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? First of all, you're doing one March 6th in Vancouver.
Yes.
And
yes.
then May 1st and 2nd also in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, in Tinamera. So I'm just talking about Vancouver at this point. You probably have heard of Annette Stanwyck, the forgiveness expert. She is... She's been speaking for quite some time, and she teaches us how to implement forgiveness into everything in our life so that these things that we go through, no matter what, you have to get to that point for yourself. And so people have asked me straight out, do you forgive him? And I forgive the child that was born into the house that developed this, because out of 4 brothers, only one of them didn't do stuff like this. So something happened to them as children.
Yeah.
So that's really sad. Then we have a couple, just on that note, we have a couple ladies coming and talking about how, all of us that have overcome big things tend to think we have to be Superwoman.
Yeah.
Right? We have this, I have to do it all. I have to do it perfectly.
If I can get through that, I can just do anything. Watch me. And it's so, we're human. And it's not a test, and we don't have to prove anything. If that's one thing that those kinds of events have taught me, is that I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to, I'm here to live, thrive, and be my best me. And that doesn't mean being super anything. It just means, right? So you speak, and then you have a woman on forgiveness, and you have the woman on makeup, and what else is involved in the seminar?
One on business that can help us, that's Pamela.
Okay.
Glennis is from South Africa, and she's all about fair trade and she talks about how the lotus flower emerges out of the most ugly, murky waters, and that really. So she's amazing. Glennis Osher is from South Africa via New York to here, and she is absolutely brilliant. And then I share a little bit of my story. So it's a mix. It's 50-50, how to grow whatever business, because I would say quite a few of the women are entrepreneurs, or they're budding entrepreneurs, or they've thought about becoming an entrepreneur. Yeah. And so give them, we're the catalyst maybe to help them make that leap, or to, continue doing what you're doing 9 to 5 kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then adding this on and to get them living that life. So, and Tinamera it's exactly the same. It's always 50-50, 50 on the business side to help them, because what typically is happening is they're just stuck, Catherine. Yeah. They're stuck, right? Yeah. And the difference between, say, Vancouver, which is, as you mentioned, on the 6th, is that's a 1-day event. Tinamera is a 2-day event. So we have more speakers, different speakers. My editor, who is the number one reason I believe I've had all the awards, the international awards. I don't know if you know, we won number 3. Yeah, so we're number 3 in the world for true crime, hope and inspiration. And Jen Violi, who is my editor, she is coming to Tinamera to, help inspire people, because you're absolutely right. What you're doing is such a huge service in getting people to start talking about this. The other thing I know is whether we choose to publish or not publish a story, we all have a story that needs to be told somehow, whether it's just in writing. And Jen, honestly, the best way I can describe Jen, she makes words sound delicious in your mouth.
She makes words sound like chocolate. I always love that.
Yeah. Anyway,
awesome.
Jen is brilliant. She is she's a soft-spoken, this woman's brilliant. She was on New York Times best-selling list herself because she wrote a book called Putting Makeup on Dead People, and it's I mean,
That's
she
good.
is, I know,
That is good.
she's phenomenal. And then we, Kelly Filardo, who you may have heard of,
Yes.
she's survived from two severe burns to her body.
Hmm.
Sherry Mulshan, who is very much about helping people find their financial independence. That's part of knowing and living your frockalicious life. You
Yeah,
know, if you
you
don't
gotta.
have, right, if you don't have your ducks in order, your house in order, you're not going to be happy because we're putting duct tape here, duct tape here. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Or worrying about, right? Worrying about the money you just can't do anything. And that's the reality. And that's how it is right now on the planet is you need money to flow, to create flow. And if you want to do
Exactly.
business and so forth. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
So both of these events, they can go to your website,
frock-off.com. And there's a lot more speakers on because it's a 2-day event. So you can see all that. But, whether it's Laurel Vespi who's doing This Is Your Wake Up Call, like we only, and I know this sounds cliche, but it's true. And yet so often people don't realize till they get to what I call the checkout line. We only get so many sunsets and sunrises. And it sounds cliche, but the truth is when you're laying there and it's it, there's no second chance then. We need to do, and I'm so passionate about this because I see so many people hurting. My mom, I spent the last 30 days with her in hospice. And as I was writing, because you're right, you had said you started in 2007. I did. I hand wrote my book first. Then I took it and entered it into a computer, and then it went from there. And it took me a long time, but I was reading her stuff and saying, Mom, is it okay if I share this? While she was in hospice.
And you.
Don't want to get emotional.
Yeah.
My mom said to me at one point, she goes, what will people think?
Yeah.
And I said, Mom, who the hell cares? Not heck. Who the hell cares what people think? Because the truth is, Mom, if they think anything other than, you must have been one feisty broad to be able to get through all this and stay alive until your 70s. And in spite of all the things, all the chances and all the times you tried, that you're a pretty strong cookie, that you're feisty and you're spicy and that, I said, and Mom, you're going to change people's lives. And if I had one regret, and I do, is that my mom can't be with me on that stage. Should I take a picture of Susan and Mom with me everywhere I go? I have a picture of Susan in my wallet to remind me I don't get to be afraid. I have a voice. You have a voice. Yeah. And if you are watching this, I would just say to you, please don't let your life go to the wayside because you're afraid of what people will think. Because guess what? First of all, they don't have a lot of time to think about you because they're busy dealing with their own demons in their own closet. And secondly, you could change the trajectory of someone's life just by speaking up, just by either writing your story or sharing your message. And it could be as simple as you and I sitting down with a tea. And I can't tell you, Catherine, how many times that's happened for me where people are sending me stuff. I mean, daily, where I'm getting information from people, hearing about what they're doing. It's not because of me. It's because they get inspired. Like you said, when you were clearing your throat. I love that you said that because that's how it works. Something twigs in them when they come to our live events and they read the book. Something happens in them and it opens up their soul to do. And it's not woo-woo. You're destined for bigger things than what we're doing. And the other thing is, look at what you're doing right now. But you have to keep evolving. All the time you evolve, and you emote something different so that we can be that change. We're not going to be it if we just go, isn't this sad?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I think it does also require a bit of an attitude adjustment. And this is my little rant. I don't believe we were put on this earth to suffer. I don't believe that. I don't. And oh yes, I have had my suffering, and oh yes, I have experienced my stuff too. But primarily, I get it now. It's because that's what I believed. I actually believed if I suffered a certain amount more, whatever, I would get a better, not better, but I never really thought about getting a better place in heaven. But I did think that that's what I was meant to do in order to. And now I really, really understand that is just a bunch of more of the hype and belief systems that were used to control us and keep us from speaking out and allowing people that wanted to do harm to do their harm. And that's just not acceptable. So
No, it's rhetoric, right? It's
Yeah.
rhetoric. You were raised Catholic,
Yes.
I'm guessing.
yes.
So I often tell people, and this is not a slam on the Catholic
No.
religion, I say I'm a recovering Catholic who's a Buddhist and believes very strongly in karma. And that doesn't mean I'm disconnected from my Catholic roots, because when you're born into the Catholic world, you get your little wheelbarrow of guilt when you're born. By now, I'm driving with 2 tandem Sims. Okay.
Not me anymore. I let go of mine. I tell you, that's the one thing I did in my own journey was to and I don't like it either when people say, well, you're not a practicing Catholic anymore. I've expanded. I look at the Catholic teachings, and there's some things that I get it better than I ever got it before, and I know
still like it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think of purgatory as the lobby at the hotel.
Oh yeah,
right. I think I'm going to go to purgatory, and they're going to go, "Would you like a VIP upgrade? You can go in this elevator or this elevator because you've done." See, that's that Catholic part. When you said that, I'm like, I get it. The suffrage of the Catholic.
Well, I actually had a poster on Facebook a while ago, and I said, it's time for us to end the glorification of suffering. It's time. And my, this is another subject really entirely, but I have a website, part of my Facebook page, which is dedicated to making friends with death. And that's part of it, because when my son died, he was killed in a car accident 2 years ago, I totally had a different experience of death. So I'm not even going with the purgatory stuff anymore. I totally get it. But that's it's a belief system. And that's all I'm saying. It doesn't matter what your belief system is.
No.
Take a look at it. Think about it in terms of, if you really believe you were put on this earth to suffer, that just makes no sense at all. None. I mean, think of the bird. It just doesn't make sense. So I really think it's time for us to all hang up our frocks and thrive.
Yes. Yes, it is. And what a change. I have this huge, ridiculous dream. I know it's ridiculous, okay, but
they're the best ones.
It is. And it's, those old white banners you used to see at running races where they take the rope. It's that crappy vinyl stuff, and they tie them up to the poles. Okay, and it would say finish line.
Yes.
On my banner, it says 13, like in numbers, 13.1 million, and it's got hearts. And I don't think that means 13.1 million books. I think it means conversations. I think it means us getting in at live events and seeing people ignite and recharge and go, yeah, whatever. That was before. I am not defined by this anymore. And
that's right.
I don't slam I'm very strong in my beliefs. I don't slam any of it, but I know that that we have to be responsible and accountable for our own, like you said, our own beliefs. And also that we can be that change. I can't do this by myself. I'm very well aware that, by what you're doing, and then somebody else is and somebody's going to see this, and they're going to share it with someone, and we're going to have a conversation.
Yes.
Just one real conversation a day. If that's how we start, just one. That is what changes. That's what changed my life.
Yeah.
Just one. I committed when I got sick with cancer. I thought, if I get to live, I was 29. If I get to live, then I will have one authentic conversation every day. And so I'm so very grateful for you, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. I don't do small weather talk or small talk and it's sunny outside. Because man, if you can see, you don't need me telling you it's sunny. Yeah. You already know, right? Is that not true?
That is the truth. And you know what's so funny about that is that whole concept of, like, that's part of what has made us broken, is because we are spending so much time and saying nothing. How are you? Fine. Are you fine? I mean, let's be serious. Of course, every stranger on the street doesn't want to hear your whole story, but maybe it's time to ask yourself, how are you? Are you fine? Yeah, exactly. If you're fine, but maybe you're not fine. Maybe you need to have one authentic conversation with somebody, and maybe it needs to be with somebody in your family. Maybe you need a counselor or someone else to reach out to. But first thing I think people should do is get your book and get into, just because it's, to me, there's something really empowering when you realize if Joe can do it, you can do it.
Oh, I agree.
And I don't mean that as a taunt or anything like that. I mean it in a very loving way. It's like, it's possible for all of us. It's possible. No, you know, if you lost your leg, you're probably not going to grow a new one back tomorrow. But you can start finding joy today. You can have joy back in your life, especially because I think that's what happens to people that are traumatized like that. It just sucks the life right out of you. You're just existing, and we can do better than that, I think. So
I think you're right. And we can't let that moment define us, whatever it is, no matter how. And I don't say this without any compassion. Clearly, I have a ton of compassion. But what I don't want is someone spending 80 years on, or even just say it's only 50. Because, you know, God forbid it's only 50. But if you have 50 years and something happened, and they say it was even, in my case, it was 35 years of my life. I intend to live to 106. I'm starting a club. Would you like to join?
I'm going for 250. I'm going for 250.
Okay, well, I'll try. That's a big one. I'll try. But, you know, we got lots to do, right?
Yes.
And here's the thing. I don't want people to, I have no sense of you. I don't want people feeling sorry for me because there's nothing to feel sorry about.
Yeah.
What I do want is I want people to reclaim their lives. I want to help them. I want to engage them. I want them then to turn around and do exactly what we're doing right now. Have those conversations and be that change. Even if it is only, like we talked about this, even if it's just with yourself initially, and then it's with your family, and then it's, you know, your community, because isn't that really where we're to come from? You know, look in your own backyard.
Yeah, well, it is that's the oneness too, and that's how we're going to actually heal. You know, I don't think that what we're seeing outside and in the news, those are all symptoms of broken homes, broken hearts, broken dreams, broken people, fear and fear-based beliefs. But yes. I think, you know, the other thing that I would just want to add is that if your child or, you know, you just neighbor's child or somebody comes to you and says, you know, something's happened to them, listen. Just listen. Yeah. Listen with your whole heart, and you will know. I'm not saying that people don't make stuff up. I know it can happen, but know your children. You know your children. You listen to them, and don't. The last thing is don't care what people think. Tell your story.
No, exactly. That
you made a really good point. Everybody's too busy with their own stuff. They're really not that worried.
They're not, and you know, just if I could just add in one more thing with regards to when the books are sold, we donate portions of proceeds to Little Warriors, and because I am a girl, I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't know. Nice.
Yeah, Little Warriors, because they're helping to educate parents and teachers how to recognize the signs of sexual assault and how to listen and how not to prompt, but actually just to let the child talk, which I think is critical. The other is they started to count for kids that have been assaulted, so that if you're in Canada, for example, that child can go and just be with other kids, and there's not that burden of, oh my gosh, I'm so broken and different, because that's how I felt.
Out so that people that are interested can look for a resource, or if they want to make donations or however that works, that would be just awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. It's been a real pleasure. Really, it has.
Thank you so much. I've so enjoyed it, and I hope to see people and help them serve in any way I can. It's all about us living the frockalicious life.
Frockalicious, that's right. And for the rest of you, until next time, take care. Wow, what an amazing woman. I am so impressed to be able to chat with Joe Dibblee on Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine, the author of Frock Off, Living Undisguised. And wasn't that amazing? Thank you to my guests for sharing with us today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. You can join us for live shows by going to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and listen to the replays from the show page, preview guests, and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.